Good morning and welcome to the Daily Random. Today we will be talking about the worst pogrom of the year and how people in Russia are responding to it. Also, we'll get deeper into the details of Purim and Passover, both Jewish holidays. And then we'll go into Sabbath, a Jewish custom every week. And then after that, we will go into the gossip of the town and an interview of a member in Russia. Also, an interview with a young man to get an idea of how it is to live as a Korean. And after that, we have an interview with a resident of Anatevka. And after that, an editorial on what birth is like in the Jewish traditions. And how two specific people feel about traditions. Then after that, we'll go into the town gossip and the cooking show, sports, and that is all that we have for you for this evening. So, let's start with pogroms and how they've escalated to extremes. Now, after the years, Russia has been getting very violent to the Jews and attacking more and more. So, it's become part of the Jews' daily lives. The Tsar has made it very clear that he no longer wants any of the Jews in Russia. Now, the most fatal pogrom of this year so far happened just yesterday. It took with it the lives of 2,500 Jews from the city of Odessa. And so the soldiers lined up the Jews and shot them all dead. A sad reality for the families of these 2,500 Jews. They will be mourning for the next year, for years on end, and it's a sad reality. And so Russia is responding differently to these violent occurrences. Fiedga, who lives in Anatevka, decided to leave the country of Russia, saying, "We cannot stay among people who do such things to others." So not all Russians side with the Tsar in saying that this is right. Now, Fiedka decides to move away from the trouble, while others decide to do the same. But many others decide a different course of action. They think that fighting fire with fire is more appropriate. They don't stand back, but they fight. And one example of a man, Perchik. He is from Kiev, and he says he likes to fight back. In fact, he told the Jews in Anatevka, "What good does your cursing do? You stand around and curse and chatter and don't do anything." He believes that doing nothing will do nothing, obviously. And he believes that if you want something done, you have to follow it with your actions. These pogroms have made many people decide to leave the country, and others still to stay and fight.
Now I'm going to talk about the causes of the revolution. In 1905, the revolution was a wave of mass political and social unrest that went around and spread through many parts of Russian Empire. Some of it was mainly directed to the government, but some of it was not directed only to the government. This included worker strikes, peasant unrest, and military mutinies. This led to the constitutional reform, which included the establishment of the State Duma of the Russian Empire, multi-party system, and the Russian Constitution of 1906. Some causes of the revolution are that, according to the author Sidney Harkav, who wrote The Russian Revolution of 1905, there were four problems in the society at the time that had held the revolution. These are the agrarian problems, the nationality problem, the labor problem, and the educated class as a problem. While probably these four things did not make a difference, these problems created the conditions for a potential revolution. At the turn of the century, discontent with the Tsar's dictatorship was manifested not only through the growth of political parties dedicated to the overthrow of the monarchy, but also through industrial strikes for better wages and working conditions. Protests and riots among peasants, university demonstrations, and the assassination of government officials, often done by socialist revolutionaries. The government finally realized all of these problems. The Minister of Interior Pleve stated in 1903, after the agrarian problem, the most serious ones plaguing the country were those of the Jews, the schools, and the workers, in that order. The Russian economy was tied to European finances, and so when the Western money markets contracted in 1899 and 900s, Russian industry plunged into a crisis deeper and more prolonged than that which currently struck Western European industry. This setback aggravated discount throughout society in the 5 years preceding the Revolution of 1905.
Okay, so now we're gonna move. So now we're gonna move on to some traditions they have. So the first tradition is called Purim. Okay, so if we go into the background of some Jews, we see that in the book of Esther, we see that Haman tried to kill all Jews in the country because they wouldn't show respect to the king. But God showed mercy. God showed justice on them, and He helped them. Now, they celebrate this because God saved them from Haman, and they do this every year. They celebrate it on the 14th day of the month of Adar, December. Well, in this tradition, they wear costumes. They drink and enjoy this day of salvation for them. So the second tradition is Passover. They celebrate this tradition in the early spring from the 15th through the 22nd. This is a week where they remember the old times when the Jewish people were saved from slavery. So if we go back to the Bible, or the Torah, which is the Bible they read, it's like the same. So this event is mostly to thank God for the salvation He gave to the Jews. So in this tradition, they have special types of food and furniture that represent the thankfulness of the Jews towards God. They also read passages from the Torah.
Now we're going to talk about the Sabbath, which is one of the most important traditions in the Jewish culture. There are mainly 7 steps to make this ceremony. The first one is to light a candle. This eventually means the start of something, because they refer as light to start because of the creation, which eventually started with light also. So they refer as that. Now, the light was the first thing God created, so that's why the Sabbath also starts that way. Because it says in the Bible that the sun was created after the light was created, this light eventually comes from a spiritual light, so it's not like a material one. Okay, in this part of the Sabbath, all the family members could be involved. The second step of the Sabbath would be blessing the children. This is a really important step because their children would be blessed because of their parents and all the blessings they have for them. So they do the mainly prayers over them and put their hands on their heart and make their wishes come true. Well, that's basically the second step. The third one is Kiddush. This involves the wine and the reciting of the Kiddush. This is a special wine that symbolizes the universal creation, and the redemption of God to His people from Israel. Okay, this also means that wine was also a symbol of freedom when the slaves became free and eventually became in peace. They had peace. Even animals were considered to have rest, even because of the symbolism. The fourth step would be breaking the bread. This is a special type of bread that the Jewish cultures make. The actual name is challah. So they and on Sabbath they eat double portions of this bread because it gives them more manna. Eventually, they would have more blessings during the day, during the year. Then we have the mainly blessing and the song. So they recite a special song which is made for the Sabbath. This is also giving thanks to God and all the grace He's given to them. And this is a traditional music, so the traditional music is to bring joy and to increase the sense of festivity in the dinner table. Another step would be the Sabbath day. On Saturday, the midday, the mid-meal, Kiddush is recited again, but it's a different one from the last one. This is mostly recited on Friday, so that's the mid-eight, and they read, take a nap, or do something that would be relaxing for them. The last step is have Dala, which is the same as it started the Sabbath, but now instead of having 2 candles, they would use only one. This would represent the unity and the blessing of the force of the Sabbath, and eventually that's how the Sabbath would end.
After this small commercial break, we'll be back with an interview with a young man about how it is to live as a Korean in Ecuador. And then after that, how economy separates into 2 groups in Russia. See you soon. I am the ninja! The toothpaste ninja! I'm Aqua Fresh!
What's your name?
Hello, my name is Haram O.
Where are you from?
I'm from South Korea.
Oh, okay. So, how does it feel being a South Korean in Ecuador?
Well, to be honest, it feels kind of weird because some Ecuadorians on the street don't know how to recognize a Chinese and a Korean. So sometimes when I pass by, they would just say names such as Krillin, Bruce Lee, or words or terms such as ni hao, konnichiwa, arigato, etc.
Okay, so now, have you lived in Korea?
Yes.
How did it feel there?
Well, something nice about Korean is because since everyone that lives in Korea are Asians, they don't discriminate us. However, there is so much competition because education is #1 priority for students. So it's really harsh.
So when you went home in Korea, you just went there to study?
Yes.
And what about in Ecuador? When you get home, what do you do?
In Ecuador, when we came here, we just fell asleep or played video games.
Okay, what kind of traditions do you have in your household?
Some traditions we have in our household is that during supper time, when the adults don't start eating, the younger ones can't start eat. So we have to wait until the adults start eating.
Any other traditions?
Nope.
Okay, so what do you think will change without this tradition?
I think without this tradition, the younger people would have more rights, and as a Korean, I think that would be better.
How would it be better?
Well, now that the young people have their own rights, we can create our own government, and also we can live in a world where we want to.
Okay. Thanks, Haram.
Next, we'll be talking about Russia's economy, but in a way of what Russia's economy does to the society. And basically, there are 2 major groups formed in society because of the economy. There's the rich class and the working class. Now, I'll explain to you how that works. Because people like to be with other people that tend to be more similar to themselves. The rich and poor join together, or the rich join with the rich and the poor join with the poor, obviously. So the 2 groups are formed. And obviously the rich get a lot of advantages, such as they have enough money to go into an early retirement, and then that gives them extra time to do what they actually care about. what their passions are. And then they also use their money to give them power, both socially and politically. They're looked up at the society, and they're not as looked down as by the government. So the government looks down at the poor, and it still looks down at the rich, but not as much. Now the next, so the working class, obviously they're jealous. They want to be rich, and because of this, they take two main courses. They either plan uprisings to want more equality and tell the government that to try and make more equality, or they educate themselves so that one day they may be superior to the rich. And the rich obviously don't like this. So some of the poor plan uprisings to complain about the rich and how it is unfair, and they promote equality. And others educate themselves so that one day they may be superior to the rich. Now obviously the rich don't like this, and they make it harder for the working class. Thus the working class then goes and plans more uprisings or tries to make it harder for the rich. And it leads this cycle of escalating anger. Now this cycle will continue, most likely, causing bigger problems. Time is the only source in which we can tell what happens through this. Now to an interview of him and Tevya, a man of Anatevka.
Mr. Tevya, what is your perspective of life while living here in Russia?
Well, my perspective of life has been changing because the circumstances in our life have been limited.
Okay, so what are some challenges that you have had to go through?
One of the main challenges is that I am a poor man, so your economic possibilities aren't really good. If I were a rich man, that would be great.
What is your job?
I am a milkman. I sell milk, cheese, etc.
Okay, so therefore, do you think that keeping your traditions in Russia have been really hard?
The Jewish people always stand up for our religion, no matter the circumstances. We do it because it is our tradition. A huge part of our culture is the Sabbath. If we don't do it, it symbolizes that our tradition is breaking apart and eventually lose our identity.
Interesting. Now, has this tradition passed to your family members, such as, like, your daughters?
Yes! Good Sabbath, children. Good Sabbath, Papa.
Have you ever welcomed someone to your Sabbath ceremony, besides your family members?
Yes, this Perchik from Kiev. And now he is staying the Sabbath with us. He is a teacher.
Thank you for your time, Mr. Tevya. That's all.
Of course.
So I'm going to talk about the celebrating of life. The first one is birth and naming ceremonies. The first day when a Jew is born, the father goes to the Sigana, it's a church for the Jews, and says to the Alevi, and asks for his child and wife to have health. Girls are named right away, and boys are given their name 8 days later when they are circumcised. The second one is Brit Mala, circumcision. Circumcision is done 8 days after the boy is born and is usually in the morning in the family's home. The third one is coming of age, bar and bat mitzvah. Jewish children are shown to follow the law, but it is not required. But when a boy turns 13, he is considered an adult and then expected to follow the rules. He is now a bar mitzvah, or son of commandments. A girl becomes bat mitzvah, daughter of commandments, when she turns 12. The fourth one is Jewish marriage traditions. In Jewish tradition, people are encouraged to get married. If you want to be a rabbi, you must be married to someone. Marriage is a part of their religious life and is very important to them. The fifth one is divorce in Judaism. Divorce is something really bad for the Jews, but sometimes it is very necessary if the couple is fighting or having complications in the relationship. In the Torah, the prophet Malachi declared, "I hate divorce," says Adonai, the God who the Jews worship. The sixth one is death rituals and Chevra Kadisha. Preserving a life is one of the most important things to the Jews, but they see death as part of their God's plan. The mourning traditions in Judaism do not mean that they are protesting death, but that they value the life of the person who has died and the life that the person was able to live. The last one is mourning. Mourning is a way for them to show comfort to the family and members left behind. Show their respect to the person who has died. The mourning process is usually for about 30 days, and this means a lot to the Jews, in the first 7 days after the death. In the years that follow, the deaf people do things to remember them. Maybe like go to their grave and put flowers or anything that they can do.
Now we'll see an interview that I did with Scott and Christy Edgren. Thank you for joining me, Scott and Christy Edgren, today. I'd like to ask you a couple questions about tradition. Now, the first one would be, what traditions do you have, and why do you consider them important or unimportant in your lives?
Well, we have a lot of traditions that revolve around, like, holidays, I guess. When we celebrate different holidays, just we kind of know that a certain tradition will come up when we do that holiday. For example, like Thanksgiving. I guess it's kind of traditional for us anyway, and for a lot of people, to have turkey for Thanksgiving. And it's not really important to have turkey. We could have anything else just as easily, but turkey helps us to just feel like it's Thanksgiving. Sometimes we've had a few Thanksgivings where we didn't have turkey, and it was a great Thanksgiving, but it just didn't feel the same because it wasn't like the normal part of that holiday.
Yeah, so do you think traditions are ever carried too far?
Yes, I think sometimes. Sometimes with Christmas, some people just, there's so many things that they try and do in one year that I think that they just it gets to be too much.
Well, and if the tradition has become so ingrained that you do it, but you forget why you do it. Somebody might ask you, why do you do that? And you just don't remember why, or you haven't thought about it in a long time. That's probably a good sign that you're doing it just for the tradition, and if the meaning's lost, there's no real value in it.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes if you just enjoy it and you just like it, that's okay too. But you should. I think a person should always feel free to change up.
Okay.
And not just do it because it's tradition, but to change, to give something fresh if it has a different or a better meaning, or if it's more exciting than what the traditional way of doing it was.
Okay, great. Thank you both for your time.
Today in Anatevka, Russia, Tevye and his family have broken a tradition, which eventually causes them to lose their identity. One of the daughters eventually wanted to marry without a matchmaker, which that's not permitted in the Jewish culture now. The young couple made their own match. Many values, beliefs, and traditions are breaking in Tevye's life. This Jewish tradition is falling apart, and eventually it's breaking down more and more, and they're not losing their identity. So, by another thing that is eventually breaking the tradition and their identity is the Gentiles touching with the Jews. This was not permitted, and this was a rule that they couldn't do. And now they broke it, and now it's more. And now the tradition is not the same as it was before. In Anatevka, the Jewish culture has been very discriminated by Russians. They don't like them. So therefore, they create trouble and always try to avoid having matches with them. Now, they've always been someone being violated with insults and discrimination, and they eventually could lead to a fight. At a bar in Anatevka, these two cultures eventually got drunk. They eventually touched and danced. The Gentiles and the Jews were dancing together, and they again were breaking their tradition, and eventually they lost of their identity.
I'm going to show you one of the Russians' main foods, and so we'll go on and get started with the cooking show.
Okay, everybody comfortable?
Not really.
Sorry, Lou.
Okay, this is good. Does this look weird? Lindsay, answer.
Yes.
What do I do?
No, never mind. No. It's okay.
Does it look weird?
Yes.
What do I do?
Put your legs to that side, maybe, if there's any room.
There is no room. Well, okay, this is what we're gonna do.
Yeah. Okay, good.
Does this look better?
Yes.
Okay. Everybody ready?
Yes.
Okay. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hey guys, today I'm gonna teach you how to make a Russian recipe called blinis. And this is my assistant, Lindsay. Okay, so first you have to start with cracking 2 eggs. Okay. Then you're gonna put in the salt. Okay. And the sugar. Okay, so can you mix that up for me, please? Then you're gonna slowly pour in the flour. And also the milk. Okay, so we're gonna mix that now. Okay, so we're gonna let this set for 20 minutes and then we'll be back. So right now we're gonna cook the blinis, and first you need to light up the oven. Okay. Then you need to grease it. You can do it with spray or butter or oil. A little more. Okay. Then you're gonna pour it in. And while it's cooking, you wanna put down the fire a little so it doesn't burn. Okay, the Russian people use these in the olden days because it represented the slavery and the Christian belief. And yeah, so it's a really famous dish in Russia. And you just have to wait a while till it cooks. We will be back once this is ready and we'll show you how it looks when it's done. So once it's been cooking for a while, one side cooked and then I flipped it and the other side cooked, and this is what it looks. And then you just put it on the plate.
Now we're gonna move on to the sports section. So Russians have a group of sportsmen. They've been training really hard for these tournaments, and last year they made a baseball team and a football team, but they weren't successful. So this year they made a soccer team, and they recruited two tennis players. They went into the international tournament, and they're placed in Group F with China, Netherlands, and Spain. Now, they have been playing some matches, and we see that China is leading first place right now with 9 points, and Russia tied up with Netherlands with 7 points, and Spain is in last place with 3 points. The last two games are coming up soon. This Thursday, it's Russia will be playing against Netherlands, and China will be playing against Spain. Well, Spain is automatically disqualified, and they won't be able to make it into playoffs. And China, for sure, they are going for sure to playoffs. So it's either China or Russia or Netherlands. Okay. So now moving on to tennis players, we see that they put some effort into practicing a lot, and both players went into the quarterfinals, and we will be watching some of the great plays from both players of Russia this Friday at the Aklat.
Well, that's all we have for this morning, folks. Hope you can join us again this evening, as we will be talking about NASA's plans of building a Pizza Hut on Mars, an eyewitness account of a grandmother being turned into a frog, and how a pigeon managed to grab